Hey guys, so this video is going to focus on how to simplify a rational expression, specifically when you're dealing with monomials, right? So a monomial just means that you have one term. So the example that I have here on the board, we have one term in the numerator, one term in the denominator. Because what we do need to keep in mind when it comes to simplifying rational expressions is that when it says simplify rational expressions, simplify really means to factor. You want to factor that numerator, you want to factor that denominator so that you can then cancel out any common factors you have and put back together what you have left over. So typically you're talking about factoring what you have, right? So you're talking about using a factoring technique. So difference of squares, reverse FOIL, grouping. There's so many different techniques out there. Except when you're dealing with a monomial, we don't really have any factoring techniques that deal with monomials. So when you have a monomial, this is what you do. You want to expand the multiplication that you have. Remember, factor just means, or a factor is just something that can get multiplied, right? So if I'm looking at this problem here, so let's start in the numerator. 18a cubed b to the fourth c. Do keep in mind that this is 18 times a cubed times b to the fourth times c. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to expand, I'm going to stretch out the multiplication. So for example, 18. Well, 18 is 9 times 2, but 9 is also 3 times 3. So 18 is really 3 times 3 times 2. A cubed, well, a cubed just means, hey, I have a times a times a. B to the fourth, so do the same thing, stretch that out. I have b times b times b times b. And then c, that's to the first power, so that means we have one of those. So this is what I mean by expand it. And do the exact same thing for the denominator. So the first thing we have in the denominator is a 4, so let's write that as the 2 times the 2. Then we have a, and that's to the first power, so that means we have one of them. B to the 7, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 B's, and then C to the fourth, so we have 4 C's. Okay, so this is what I mean by expand it. So write this as a factorization of every little component that makes that up. Now when we're done writing this, stretching this out, now's my favorite part. We get to cancel what we have in common. So remember that in math we do have this one rule right over here that says anytime we have the same thing over itself, it's going to cancel to a 1. So if I have the same thing in the numerator as I have in the denominator, I can cancel this out. So let's get to canceling. So let's see, a 2 can cancel with a 2, an A with an A. 4 of those B's are going to cancel. And then one of those C's will cancel. And do look over it just to make sure you didn't forget anything, you didn't leave anything out. But if you are completely done canceling everything, our answer is what we would get when we put this back together. So in my numerator, let's see, I have a 3 times a 3, which is a 9. Go ahead and multiply any numbers back out. Then I have 2 A's, so that would be an A squared. And looks like that's it. Moving down to the denominator, I have a 2, and then I have 3 B's, so that would be a B cubed, and then 3 C's, so that would be a C cubed. So this right here would be my final answer. So just remember, when you're dealing with monomials, stretch that out into a multiplication, cancel anything you have in common, and slap it all back together in the end.